Am I doing too much? No. No, sometimes I wonder, am I doing enough? Okay, I'm ready for my...
The fallout began the very moment Rachel Zegler opened her phone camera and pressed record. What she had intended to be a raw, emotional, and heartfelt message to her fans, a reassurance that she was still standing strong despite months of public backlash, instead became the spark that ignited a full-blown firestorm. In the now infamous clip, Rachel appeared teary-eyed, emotionally drained, and visibly frustrated. Her voice trembled as she tried to defend herself, insisting that she still had supporters who appreciated her work and artistry. "When I win the winged victory," she said, "it came to me in pieces. And people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see me. And if you disagree with that sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks." The moment she hit upload, the internet pounced. What Rachel had intended as a message of resilience was immediately twisted, mocked, and dissected by thousands. Within hours, clips of her speech were everywhere, stripped of their original emotion and turned into memes, reaction videos, and parodies. Instead of applause, she was met with ridicule. Instead of support, there was scorn. Many viewers saw the video not as a moment of vulnerability, but as a meltdown, a celebrity cracking under pressure. The responses were brutal. "Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke," one commentator mocked, but she's woken away. Others were even harsher, claiming she was delusional, unstable, and out of touch with reality. "She thinks this is about feminism, patriarchy, or politics," another critic said, "but the truth is she's just not stable." Like many in Hollywood, they're not grounded human beings. They're lost in their own image. I'd advise everyone to boycott this film, no matter how much their kids love Snow White. As the backlash grew, the online storm became impossible to ignore. Videos analyzing every frame of Rachel's recording dominated TikTok and YouTube. Twitter threads accused her of arrogance and narcissism, while others speculated that Disney was regretting ever casting her in such an iconic role. Across social media, users began recycling lines from the Snow White trailer and turning them into satire. The film's modernized dialogue, meant to sound empowering, was mocked relentlessly. "Excuse me, your curtain, please allow me to help," one clip began, followed by, "Help from you? I didn't mean to offend," and then the now infamous line, "You think some privileged white guy's opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high horse." What was supposed to be a reimagined feminist twist was instead interpreted as preachy, smug, and alienating. Then came the numbers, and they told an even darker story. Snow White, once touted as Disney's next great live-action success, was an unmitigated disaster. With a production budget of nearly $250 million, it brought in only $43 million at the box office during its opening weekend. For a company used to billion-dollar princess franchises, this was a humiliation. The excuses came quickly. "It's only been a couple of days, give it time," some defenders said. But the industry knew better. The audience's mind was already made up, and the film's reputation had been destroyed before it even had a chance. Film analysts began questioning what was happening behind the scenes at Disney. How had such a major project, with a legacy character beloved for nearly a century, gone so catastrophically wrong? Some speculated that the studio had lost touch with its audience, focusing more on ideological messaging than storytelling. Others blamed poor marketing and a divisive lead who seemed to alienate more viewers than she attracted. One commentator summed up the general sentiment bluntly, "Snow White flopped. Who's surprised? You cast arguably the most disliked actress in Hollywood in a role that's supposed to symbolize kindness and innocence, and then expected people to cheer. Of course it bombed." By the time the final weekend numbers rolled in, the situation was beyond repair. Snow White had opened to a disastrous $45 million, a figure that might have been respectable for an independent drama, but was catastrophic for a major Disney production. Critics called it one of the biggest miscalculations in modern Hollywood history. What should have been Rachel Zegler's defining moment, her chance to solidify herself as a new face of Disney magic, had instead become a case study in how fast the internet can turn on a celebrity, and how merciless the modern audience can be when they sense inauthenticity. Compared to The Little Mermaid, which faced its own share of controversy yet still managed to open with a respectable $95 million, Snow White's numbers were nothing short of catastrophic. For Disney's latest live-action remake to pull in less than half of that amount was a glaring warning sign. Something had gone deeply, irreversibly wrong. And it wasn't just that audiences stayed home, they actively turned against the film. On IMDb, the movie's rating nosedived to an astonishing 6, the lowest in the platform's history. That wasn't merely a box office disappointment, it was cinematic infamy. As analysts scrambled to make sense of the disaster, the internet was already doing its own autopsy. Old clips of Rachel Zegler resurfaced and spread like wildfire, with fans and critics alike pointing to them as the root cause of the movie's downfall. In one now viral interview, she casually dismissed the original Snow White as weird and very evidently from 1937. She described the prince as a man who literally stalks her and laughed off the idea of romance altogether. "We absolutely wrote a Snow White who isn't going to be saved by the prince," she said. "She's not dreaming about true love, she's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be." At the time, Disney appeared to stand firmly behind her comments, promoting the film as a bold, modern reimagining of a beloved classic. But in hindsight, many believe that tone of mockery and dismissal alienated the very audience Disney depended on. Generations of fans who grew up with the magic and innocence of the original story. What was meant to sound empowering came across to many as arrogant and disdainful, not just toward the character, but toward the legacy itself. Rachel's reputation didn't help either. Footage circulated of her joking that she deserved to be paid for every hour the movie is streamed online, since she had to stand there for 18 hours in a dress. Others pointed to her social media controversies, particularly her outspoken political posts, as further evidence of her combative relationship with Disney's audience. According to an alleged behind-the-scenes report, the studio had been in damage control mode for months, struggling to manage Rachel's public image. Executives reportedly flew out a producer to meet her in person after she tweeted politically charged statements shortly after promoting the film. They allegedly pleaded with her to take down one particular post that had gone viral, but she refused. From that point on, Disney's PR team had to hire a dedicated social media consultant to monitor her online presence, a move insiders described as unprecedented for a lead actress. Despite their efforts, the controversies kept coming. From her dismissive remarks about romance and marriage to her jokes about working conditions, Rachel seemed to alienate both conservatives and Disney loyalists alike. Even Steven Spielberg, the executive producer of her breakout film, reportedly grew frustrated with how she handled interviews and press events. By the time Snow White premiered, the narrative had already been written. And it wasn't about the film's visual effects or its reinterpretation of a fairy tale. It was about Rachel Zegler. Disney fans weren't merely disappointed, they were furious. To them, she hadn't just failed to embody a beloved character, she had insulted the legacy of the story itself. It wasn't just about a movie flopping anymore, it was about what many saw as the mockery of a cultural cornerstone. Snow White, a story cherished for nearly a century, had been reinterpreted in a way that felt, to some audiences, like an attack on tradition itself. And just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get worse for Disney or Rachel Zegler, a new storm began to brew. One that was far more ideological than financial. Political commentators started weighing in, reframing Snow White not simply as a box office misfire, but as a statement piece laced with social and political messaging. YouTube reviewers and critics dissected every line, every scene, every subtle shift in tone. "Alright guys," one popular reviewer began, "I watched Snow White so you don't have to. Let's get into it." Now, first things first, Snow White doesn't get her name from the fairness of her skin anymore. Obviously, that wouldn't fit Rachel Zegler's casting. Instead, in this version, she's called Snow White because she survives a snowstorm. Her parents are king and queen of a utopian, communist-style society where everyone shares and redistributes resources equally. Fairness, as in the fairest of them all, is now about social equity, not beauty. How about social equity, not beauty?
The show a couple days ago with our stage manager, Tara. And now he's laying on the ground, and I'm still answering questions.
That interpretation lit the internet ablaze. Words like communist undertones and ideological propaganda began appearing in reviews and Reddit threads. People parsed through the script's dialogue, pointing out the anti-royalty themes and the rejection of traditional romance and hierarchy. Conservative media outlets called it a deliberate rewrite of a fairy tale to serve a political message, claiming that Disney had stripped away the innocence, morality, and wonder that once defined its films. To them, this wasn't modernization, it was moral posturing. Meanwhile, the real-world tension surrounding the film was becoming impossible to ignore. The strained relationship between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, her co-star in the film's Evil Queen, became a story of its own. Their appearance together at the Oscars was the public's first real look at the pair since the controversy began. And it said more than any interview could. On stage, they stood apart, exchanged no warm glances, and shared no laughter. Even on the red carpet, Gal arrived separately, posed separately, and, according to industry insiders, had made it explicitly clear to her team that she didn't want to share press time with Rachel. One insider put it bluntly, "Gal wants to distance herself from the project. She's proud of her work, but not of what the movie has become. The public narrative has shifted too much, and she doesn't want to be dragged into it." To the public, the body language said it all. Gal's silence was a quiet, but unmistakable disavowal. As for audiences, the traditional Disney fan base, the parents and families who had once defined the studio's success, had already turned away. For them, Snow White was supposed to represent something pure and nostalgic. Instead, they saw a cynical reinvention that spoke down to them. Many pointed to Rachel's old interviews, where she called the 1937 original weird, outdated, and about a guy who literally stalks her. Those words resurfaced again and again as parents voiced their frustration online. "This isn't Snow White," one viral TikTok from a mother declared. "This is a lecture covered in glitter." Comment sections across platforms echoed the same sentiment. Disney had lost touch with its audience. In trying so hard to modernize a classic, the filmmakers, and Rachel herself, had alienated the very people who once made the story timeless. The charm, the romance, the sense of wonder, all of it, fans said, had been replaced by self-importance and ideology. And as the dust began to settle, the aftershocks were already visible in Rachel Zegler's career. What had started as quiet industry whispers were now turning into tangible consequences. Studio insiders began hinting that several upcoming projects involving Rachel were being quietly delayed or reevaluated. Behind closed doors, executives questioned whether she was now too polarizing, too controversial, too unpredictable to anchor another major franchise. Several of the projects Rachel Zegler was previously attached to are now reportedly in limbo. According to multiple off-the-record accounts from studio insiders, ongoing talks with her have been quietly paused. Her name, once viewed as a promising box office draw and a sign of fresh star power, is now being described as a potential liability. Rumors have surfaced that a handful of roles she'd been shortlisted for are already being recast behind the scenes. One executive, speaking anonymously, even went so far as to call her a walking PR hazard. And with no major stars publicly coming to her defense, that label may end up sticking. It's a sobering reversal for someone who, not long ago, was heralded as one of Hollywood's brightest young talents. After her breakout performance in West Side Story, Rachel Zegler was the industry's new darling. Fresh-faced, charming, and just rebellious enough to be interesting. She seemed poised for a meteoric rise. Snow White was supposed to be the defining moment of her career, the role that would solidify her as the new face of Disney magic and introduce her to millions of young fans around the world. Instead, it's become the turning point of a very different story. Between the movie's disastrous reception, her increasingly negative public image, the resurfaced interviews that painted her as dismissive of the original film, and what many interpreted as a genuine emotional breakdown online, Rachel's once glowing reputation has dimmed dramatically. Within the industry, the tone around her name has shifted from excitement to hesitation. Even those who once championed her talent are now keeping their distance, unsure whether she can weather the storm. Perhaps most telling of all is the silence. A silence that speaks louder than any statement could. In moments like this, Hollywood tends to rally around its own, especially when the target of backlash is young and under pressure. But in Rachel's case, that solidarity has been conspicuously absent. Other Disney stars who typically rush to defend their fellow princesses have remained quiet. There have been no public words of encouragement, no supportive tweets, no vague Instagram stories offering kindness or empathy. For someone who once had the entire industry at her feet, the lack of support is striking and unsettling. The absence of that safety net has only fueled speculation about her emotional well-being. What started as concern about her public behavior has evolved into a deeper conversation about whether she's coping at all. Industry figures who once viewed her confidence as bold and refreshing now describe it as volatility. The narrative has changed, and so has the tone. And so has the tone.